Welcome to the Jets UK podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andres Groves. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, Matthew Merritt. Matt, how are you doing today?
All good. I'm probably a couple of kilograms heavier than last time I was on this podcast, but that is the Christmas period for you, isn't it?
Absolutely. I am the exact same boat with you. I'm probably the majority of the country is as well. It's Christmas, and it leads to the very popular New Year's resolution, which I'm sure a lot of listeners and people around the country will be signing up for some sort of fitness regime to kind of get over the all the eating that's been happening over the last week. But yeah, I mean, we're coming off a win, which is pretty good, and heading into an intriguing matchup against the reigning champions, the Tampa Bay Bucs. Obviously, they are actually hit with quite a few COVID outages. We don't know if how many people are going to come back from their team. They obviously injured a few players. They're out with a few players in terms of there's no Chris Godwin. There's no running back Leonard Fournette. Is he out? He's out?
Yeah, Fournette's out.
Yeah, so
Godwin's out.
Yeah, so it's kind of not the team that we're used to in terms of what we saw last year, but still a formidable team with Brady. So how are you feeling about things going into this game?
I think it's an exciting matchup, especially for Zach. I mean, looking at the kind of quarterbacks he's faced in his rookie season, there hasn't ever really been a battle against a really established big name opposite him. He hasn't played any of those what we'd consider those top dogs this season. So I think that's kind of where this matchup begins for me, is having an opportunity for Zach to be on the same field in the same matchup against one of those top tier quarterbacks. It is our old nemesis Tom Brady coming back for the final time, hopefully, to play the Jets.
It should be, yeah.
Our favourite memories of him obviously include that playoff game up in Foxborough where we knocked them out. But truth be told, there are a lot more memories of him beating us than the other way around. Unfortunately, I think his career record for us is something like 30 wins to 8 losses, which is pretty painful. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. I think Zach has kind of taken those steps forward since coming back from injury, with the exception really of that Saints game, who, of course, Tom Brady struggled with and got nil point against. So I think we just want to keep seeing those strides coming forwards. It's a bit frustrating as a Jets fan watching him take these strides forwards, and it doesn't feel like he's getting kind of the recognition that some of the other quarterbacks are, especially in their rookie seasons. But we're seeing it. I think you've got to trust the process, and I think those big steps will come starting from next season, and he's kind of feeling more comfortable in the offense. So hopefully we just kind of keep that up this week, kind of keep driving, keep growing, keep stepping forward, and it's a nice opponent to do it against.
Yeah, it definitely is. I do think Zach's getting the recognition. He's about to be crowned 3-time Rookie of the Week, I'm sure. If I haven't checked it, but I'm sure we've kept it around the kind of 70% mark or somewhere around there. So, yeah, I mean, that's a silly thing. Obviously, we voted him in, but the fact that he's been nominated when not a lot of the other QBs. I mean, Davis must have had a few nominations, but we haven't seen many. We haven't seen many, if any, nominations for Trevor Lawrence or for Justin Fields. So the fact that he's getting nominated because he put in a good performance the previous week is good. It shows that there is some recognition that he's having those decent games there and making big plays. So it's there. We see the progress. We're seeing he's doing the little things well. We know the big plays are always going to be there for him in his locker. So I think steadily he's improving. If he has another 2 games that are of good improvement against 2 really good teams, in terms of compared to what we just faced in the Jags, it's a much bigger challenge no matter how many people are out. That's how poor the Jags are. But I think if he does 2 good performances to finish the season, I think we can feel quite confident that with an off season to work again with the in the system and prep himself for his sophomore year, he could have potential to have a bit of a leap next year. So yeah.
And what's exciting, of course, is this week we're getting Jamison Crowder back and hopefully Elijah Moore. So you're just adding those weapons around him and kind of almost asking Zach to do less, which will in turn allow him to do more. Because if he's able to throw those quick hook and daggers to Jameson, or kind of those dig routes, which Moore has been so good and so successful at, where he's 20 yards up the field, a quick cut in, a quick cut out, and then the ball's on him. That's going to move the sticks. And that's kind of what we want to see from this offense. It's obviously been a lot harder the last couple of weeks with his kind of reads and who he can throw to. And against Jaguars, we were obviously fortunate where he didn't really need to throw the ball too much. I know some people complained he only got 102 yards passing, but we were averaging 7 yards a carry. Why would you do more or less than that? It doesn't make any sense to do it. And when he had the ball in his hand, he played well passing. So you want to keep seeing him continue that. I think the Buccaneers secondary is quite banged up at the moment. So hopefully there are opportunities for Zach to exploit in the passing game. I think it's one of those games where you just don't want to see the Jets getting blown out. Like if we're coming out of the game and we lose 31-28, 35-31, something in this kind of ballpark, and obviously those are fairly big scores for the Jets to be putting up based on what we've seen this season. But if they look competitive and they're kind of like in the fourth quarter and there's still a chance they could squeeze the game or win it, and I think everyone would take that because it shows that they're making steps. We just don't want to see one of these other games. We've had them a couple of times this season. We all know what we're talking about, where halfway through the second quarter there's no point really watching it anymore, apart from if you're a glutton for punishment, where they're just not turning up. And I think it's that kind of competitiveness, like willingness to get involved, get stuck in, that we all want to see, because that's what the Jets have been talking about all season, is kind of learning a scheme, learning how to win, learning to rally around each other, be a young squad but come together. And those excuses, now that you're in week 17, are getting less and less valid because you've been out there for 16 weeks. So what can you do about it? Are you going to kind of be able to put yourself out there and get stuck in? I think that's what we really want to see.
Yeah, I think it's an important test to see, them to be competitive, to show that they're not going to get pushed over, even if they do end up on the losing side, and probably will, because they're obviously the inferior side. They're coming in as big underdogs and likely will struggle in some parts. But if they show some competitiveness and trying to keep on doing good things throughout the game through all four quarters, I think it is something that we can kind of pick apart and see the positives, even in a loss or in a performance that doesn't look on paper very good. So yeah, I think it's just kind of match yourself up against a good team and do the best you can, and don't embarrass yourself, really. We're gonna kind of wrap the episode up with a kind of more in-depth preview of the game. We'll be speaking to Alex from Bucs UK, also kind of previewing the game from his angle as well, with him obviously knowing the team very well and knowing the ins and outs of what they are like going into this week with all the ins and outs. So I think we'll just jump straight into the news. I mean, you mentioned some of the people that we could be getting back. In terms of COVID people that we had so many people out. Yesterday we had on the offense Joe Flacco, Kenny Yeboah back on the defense. We had Michael Carter II, Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Marshall, Noah Dawkins, Hamza Nasruddin, Foley Fatukasi, and Tenzel Smart coming back, with the hope that Vincent Smith, LDT, AVT, JFM, Ashton Davis, and Hamilcar Rashid will be back as well. So that's a big kind of influx of talent coming back into the team at the right time. The fact that they were all out for the Jags, it was like the one team in the league that we could actually get a win over, with all the kind of with the situation we had with COVID. It kind of matched up perfectly. If we were going to have our outbreak any week, it was going to be against the Jags, and it worked out well. So that'd be great to have all those players back in the fold, and it should give us a good chance to be competitive. You said about Elijah Moore. They're saying he's 50-50 at this point. This was of Wednesday's press conference with Robert Saleh. So we're recording this on Thursday, so we still need to see. Hopefully by the time this is out, we'll know a bit more about Elijah Moore. But yeah, him being back would be great, because if we can have him, Michael Carter, AVT, and Zach all playing together, that would be fantastic to see the four draft rookies, the four early draft rookies play all together in the same offense, even for one snap. That would be great. So I think it's that kind of wraps up in terms of the news. There's not much else to talk about other than people coming back, and that's really good. There's a few niggling injuries, but nothing much to comment on right now. Nothing serious, nothing too major. So I think with that, we'll wrap this part up and we'll head over to our chat with Alex. Okay, so I'm joined by Alex from Bucs UK. Alex, thanks for joining us on the pod.
Yeah, hi Andres. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
So yeah, it's a team that's we know one of the players very well, Brady, but he's in a new uniform, but he's in a very much a good place in his career. He's loved playing in MetLife and then had a lot of success against the Jets, and yeah, we welcome him back tentatively to MetLife. So yeah, it's one of those games we're just a little bit nervous about. How are you feeling about the game in general?
Honestly, pretty good, particularly when I think
Naturally.
back to yeah, naturally, of course, yeah. Particularly when I look back to our performance against Carolina on Sunday. Even with all the players that we had out, the fact that we managed to play as well as we did, considering the circumstance, and of course also limit them to 6 points as well, was exceptionally pleasing as a Bucks fan. So, obviously, I've got high hopes that we can do something similar against you guys on Sunday.
Yeah, I wouldn't I would be confident if I was in your position too. So I can't blame you for that. Before we get into any kind of the general season and the game itself, just like to throw it to you to kind of introduce yourself and basically how you became a Bucks fan and when that was.
Yeah, sure. So I've actually been supporting the Bucks since 2012, but that was my second trip to the US. My first trip was in 2010, but I went in the summer, so and I wasn't really into American football at that point. And because I was in the summer, obviously the season was it was the off season and it was July, so there was no preseason football at that point either. And then I sort of got back from the States, and one of my best friends who I went to America with, he introduced me to the game. And I started watching it, and lots of people say this about how they just get hooked, and that just happened to me. I,
Mm.
I can't tell you what it was about it. I just started watching it. I loved it. I just kept watching it and kept watching it, and I thought, well, I need a team to support now. I'm into the sport. I'm watching it every week. I want to have some major interest in this sport. And originally, I actually used to said, I like dolphins. I'll support the Miami Dolphins. So, so I just kept a brief eye on them for a couple of years, and then I went back to America with my friend again. And he and his family have got a house near Tampa, and they're Bucks fans. So because I was out with them, and they're Bucks fans, I thought, right, I will jump on the Bucks bandwagon. The only weird thing was that in 2012 was head coach was Greg Schiano, if that name means much
Yeah.
to any of you guys or any of your viewers listening. So why on earth I chose to become a Bucks fan when Greg Schiano was head coach, even I can't tell you. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my Bucks story really.
I mean, it works out pretty well. It's a few years removed from obviously the early success at the early part of the millennium, but then you kind of had that kind of run up with through Jameis and the ups and downs with him,
Mm.
and then eventually the Brady. So it's kind of had this nice ascension to the title last year for you as a fan. And being a Dolphins fan, you could have been one of the Dolphins guys that would have been appeared a few weeks ago instead. So
It's
yeah,
very true.
so that's interesting. In terms of this season, obviously you're coming off a Super Bowl championship, and you're trying to repeat that with Brady in tow and everyone around him. How do you feel about the season generally has gone so far?
Well, I mean, we're 11-4, so I'd say it's a pretty good season. If you offer me that at the start of the season, of course I'm going to take it. 11-4, secure the NFC South, back into the playoffs. Very, very happy. And to look at how our young talent has continued to develop as well, particularly defense. The defense was superb in 2020, and it's now almost taken that next step. It seemed to take a bit of a time to get going again this season, like it did in the 2020 season. But now it seems to have found its stride. It's going really, really well. And of course, I know it's not just Tampa. All the teams being hit with COVID, but the fact that we have managed to manage that quite well in terms of. We haven't been hit with COVID too drastically until this week. Bruce Arians has contracted COVID and won't be at the game on Sunday. So, what the outcome of that within the team is going to be, we'll find out over the next few days leading up to Sunday. But it's great to see some players really come out of their shell a bit more as well. Leonard Fournette, I think this season in terms of a whole season, he's been incredible. Last season, he didn't really show what he's capable of till the postseason, and this season he's been doing all the way through, and it's been absolutely brilliant to see. And you look at our rookies such as Joe Tryon Shoninka, what a first season I think he's had. He's not being on the field every snap, but he certainly had his fair share, particularly with JPP picking up a bit of an injury, and he's coming and showing what he can do. So this season's been great to watch, and but also it's been great that, of course, now that the travel ban has been lifted, that we can get back out there as well. Unfortunately, I've not been able to make it myself, but we have had members from Bucs UK who have had the chance to go and watch the team, watch Brady, and be back over in the States. So that just makes it even sweeter.
Yeah, it's definitely a great time at the moment to be a Bucks fan. In terms of obviously Ben Arians being out, a lot of Jets fans were quite disappointed that you didn't appoint Bowles as the interim coach. That would have been quite fun for him to be the head coach back in MetLife Stadium. That would have been quite a funny one. But I think there might have been a reason for that. It's to kind of keep him out of the spotlight, potentially for him to maybe, obviously he has potential to get a head coaching job. Those things are rumbling around, and maybe Arians, obviously being very close with him, wants to keep him out of that kind of spotlight and just say, let's give someone else a chance, and not have that kind of weird situation of being the head coach at MetLife against the Jets. So but interesting thing anyway. But talking about this game, going into it, obviously a lot of injuries as well as the COVID stuff that's basically hitting both our teams. Obviously, I think a lot of the Jets players have come back in the process of coming back. I know some of the Bucks players probably will as well, with all the rules of trying to get people back on the field as quickly as possible. But in terms of injuries itself, I saw the injury report as of Thursday is quite extensive. There's quite a few players there. In terms of some of those players, who do you feel confident that will be able to go? Is there anyone that you're leaning that you think might be kind of struggling to get on the field, and who might not we see on Sunday?
Well, I mean, in terms of the injury report, I think there's about 9 or 10 players on there. I think if I think if I think we'll see a couple. Mike Edwards is now back practicing full, which is brilliant. He's been another incredible player on our defense. It's not fair for me to pick one player out on our defense who's played well this season, because they've all been brilliant, and Mike Edwards is as an important part of that jigsaw as any of the other players. So it'll be great to hopefully see him back on Sunday. Antoine Winfield Jr. is back, but limited participation. So it's going to be very touch and go whether or not we see him on Sunday. I mean, of course, I'd love to see him back in. He's been outstanding this season as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be another interesting player to keep an eye on there. And then we're going to be missing, of course, Shaq Barrett. He's out for the rest of the regular season, which is a huge blow for us defensively. He's got 10 sacks. This double sack season, which hasn't been done. That was the first time I think in a while that's been done for the Bucks. So what an achievement for him this season. And then JPP, I'm not sure how long he's out for at the moment, because he picked up an injury and was playing through that injury for a few games as well.
Right. Okay.
And you could see how he was just not on it. He was. He's a massive team player, and he really wants to be out there helping the team. But he was really, really struggling. So how long that's going to put him out for? I might have missed an injury report there, but I'm not sure how long he's gone for there. So yeah, there's some big names, as I say, who we're going to be missing there. But maybe we might see Edwards and Winfield Jr. Do something on Sunday, possibly.
Do we think we see the lovely guy that is Antonio Brown turn up on MetLife, or because he's obviously turned up did not practice with an ankle injury. Obviously he had a big role in his return last week and kind of helped out with all the injuries and COVID outages that you had in that position. Do you think he comes back in? I know Mike Evans is on the kind of fence. He's obviously been cleared COVID stuff, but we're trying to work out basically who's out there for in terms of the receivers, because obviously there's such explosion there when they're out there. So if you take one or two of them, obviously we're not going to see Godwin anyway, but if you take another one away, it kind of just helps a little bit, kind of us get an idea of what we're facing on Sunday and whether we're truly going to be embarrassed or not. So what we're looking at in terms of Mike Evans and Antonio Brown in terms of in that wide receiver unit, guys coming back?
Well, I mean, in terms of which receiver's going to be out there, your guess is as good as mine right now with COVID
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just everything going on. However, I think we might see Mike Evans. While he's yet to be officially activated off the COVID list, he was catching some balls from Brady at the end of practice today. We're recording this on the 30th, Thursday. He was out there today, so I think we will see him take the field. Um, Antonio Brown. Now, about to, yeah, him coming up on this injury report today surprised me. So, I don't know about him.
yeah.
Is an honest answer. That is one that
That
I
is
will have to
generally
keep
what
a
we
very
people say about
close
AB,
eye on.
right? We
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
about that guy. He just
no.
does random stuff, and so I guess it could be just
Um,
one of those situations where we'll just he will or he won't show up on Sunday. We'll just see when we see the
mm,
inactives and who's active for that
yeah,
game.
I,
I think that's just one thing we're just gonna have to wait and see until Sunday for
I
whether
think
AB.
so.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I
it's,
mean, it could be, it says ankle on the injury report. So whether or
yeah,
not it's just a slight knock and they're just protecting, it could be something like that. Obviously, injury reports don't go into a huge amount of detail because teams don't want to give much away leading up to the game.
no,
Yeah, and then in terms of the other wide receivers. Of course, we've got Tyler Johnson, who, massive fan of him. I think he doesn't see a lot of game time, but he's a great young player, and I think he's really going to develop into something quite special. Bashar Perriman, he's been activated off IR, so he'll be back on Sunday. I'm very convinced by that. And then we also got Scotty Miller as well, who he's an interesting one because a great receiver, but for me, I've always compared him to Julian Edelman. When we got Brady, he was sort of the
yeah,
comparison I made there. But he only saw, I think it was 3 or 4 snaps on Sunday, last Sunday,
mm,
which was very surprising. So, and he's capable of a very explosive play. Is Scotty Miller? He really can get motoring. And then another player we've got, which Jets fans might not be too familiar with, is a guy called Cyril Grayson. And he was playing on Sunday against the Panthers, and he made a couple really big explosive plays, over 60 yards. He didn't get a touchdown, but he was targeted by Brady on a couple of occasions, and really really did a great job there. So yeah, you might have to keep your eyes on Cyril Grayson. He might
yeah. I
pull
think
something
with
out of the bag
Brady,
again.
yeah, I think with Brady running the show, I mean, of course, if you don't have you'd rather not see as an opponent Mike Evans, Godwin, and AB if all three are gone, obviously. But the other guys you mentioned are good players, and Brady just does a great job with getting the most out of players around him. He definitely, he's the ultimate elevator in terms of the people around him. In
Mm,
terms of the running game, because obviously with Leonard Fournette
yeah,
out. And our run D being absolutely atrocious, by and large, unless we faced a James Robinson-less Jags team last week. What's it looking like in terms of the running back room and what's your feelings about that kind of going into the next few weeks without Fournette? Is Fournette out for a short IR or is it kind of out for the season? I wasn't able to pick that one up.
yeah. I'd have to double check this, but I think he's potentially back for the postseason
Okay,
along with Godwin. But don't quote me on that. I would need to double check it. Um,
but he's
but
out for Sunday anyway, so
he's definitely out for Sunday. That
in
much we
terms
do
of
know.
Sunday's purposes,
Um,
what do you think about the
um,
running game and the guys you got
yeah.
there?
So we got Ronald Jones, Keyshawn Vaughn, and a certain Levion Bell, which name might
Yes.
ring might ring a
Yes,
bell
yeah,
to
yeah.
you
We
there.
we brought him up
Uh,
on yeah, we brought him up earlier. Yeah, I think
yes, yes.
yeah,
So I mean, Ronald Jones on Sunday, he looked really good. I was really pleased to see him, back to the Rojo we saw past couple of seasons. Who had done really, really well. Last season he was close to 1,000. He missed out by a minimal amount. Then season before, I think he got around 800 yards. I think, if I remember my numbers correctly, it was still quite a good number there.
yeah.
And he got the opportunity on Sunday with obviously Fournette being on IR, and I thought he did really, really well. He ran hard. He got a touchdown, which is great, and Keyshawn Vaughn as well, who's not seeing a lot of time on the field this season. He's almost the fourth string running back, particularly when Bernard was fit as well, because obviously you've got
Yeah,
Jim Bernard out on IR as well.
yeah.
But he made a great play to score the touchdown over 60-yard run on Sunday, which was brilliant to see. So yeah, we've got two players there who are capable of a play.
They're going to
I'm
be
not saying
fine. They're going to be
I
fine. Duke Johnson
yeah.
looked great a few weeks ago. Like I said, it had to, it was honestly the Jags are so terrible
Mm,
that we were able to do a decent job, but they still had decent runs here and there. But overall, we've been such a poor team against the run, and really mediocre backs look really, really good. And I think Rojo is above that mediocre level, so he's going to probably look like an all-star. I think he's a
yeah.
guy that could be starting in some fantasy championship teams. Basically, I think it would be.
Yes.
He's a guy that if you're in there, throw him in there because there's a very good chance with that O line that the Bucs have and what the Jets are defensively against the run, it could be a very very good day for Rojo. So I think yeah, I'm a little bit nervous just generally just because I see that offensive line and I feel even without Leonard Fournette you're gonna have got some good talent there. I was a fan of Keyshawn Vaughn coming out of the draft as well that year. So and Lev Bell, well, I think Lev Bell's past it, but he's probably going to he's going to be juiced for playing against the Jets in MetLife again. He obviously had his ins and
Mm.
outs with the Jets. He's obviously he was a Jets fan growing up as well. So there's just a lot of things with him. Jets. I'm sure he'll be very excited to play the Jets. So he'll probably put two touchdowns against us. So um,
I mean,
is what it.
if I can touch on Le'Veon Bell really quickly, if that's all
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's an interesting one there because, um, it's like I say, since he's left the Patriots, he has struggled. The Steelers. Sorry, since he's
Yeah.
left the Steelers, he has struggled. But I wonder if for us, he might be that third down back. Which because one thing I can't say much about Keyshawn Vaughn because we're not seeing a lot of him, certainly in the catching game. But Ronald Jones and his catching isn't it's not the best, if I'm being kind.
Right. Okay.
And also as a blocker, as a pass blocker, Ronald Jones is not the guy you want on the field.
Okay.
He is
Mm.
absolutely atrocious when it comes to that. So I wonder if we might see Le'Veon Bell more in the blocking game potentially, and as that third down back. If you just want that extra yard or just a little dump pass or something, shovel pass,
Yeah,
whatever,
he'd be good for
just to
that.
get those extra few yards possibly. So that's where we might see Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many third downs you're going to be forced into, so I don't know how much we'll see Lev Bell. We'll see.
Hey,
Like I said, the more you're talking about your team, the more I'm pessimistic. Like I said, it's just we'll see. We'll see where we go. In terms of a player, obviously a lot of being people going out with injuries, people going out with COVID, and obviously it's quite a well-known team being a championship team. But is there a player that's kind of stepped up, or a player that people generally may not know about who could be kind of a big make a big difference on Sunday?
Yeah, well, I've already. There's a couple actually, and one of them I've already mentioned, Cyril Grayson.
Yes.
Um, wide receiver who, um, if our game against the Panthers last Sunday is ending to go by, is capable of an explosive play. And then there's a couple players on defense actually who have been. I'm sure I don't know much about what your head coach sort of preaches to your players, but something that Bruce Arians is always saying is next man up. Every time that's sort of the phrase that he goes to
It's
constantly.
pretty NFL
Um,
wide, that isn't it?
yeah, no, that probably is, yes. But as someone who only
Yeah.
focused on the Bucks, I don't really,
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's two players. So there's Anthony Nelson, who is a linebacker, and he's well, he's first string at the moment due to injuries, if you like. So he's been playing really really well. He had a great game on Sunday against the Panthers, and another linebacker by the name of Kevin Minter, who wherever he's come in, he's been brilliant. Because we've got Devin White and Levante David are the starters, but no Levante David because he's on IR, so he's out as well. So
Mm.
Minter will certainly be in there, and he's been a great addition as a backup. He's been brilliant. So there's certainly three players to watch out for, and also of course we've got Vita Vea, but there's a guy who has just been activated off IR called Raheem Nunez Roches, who is our backup nose tackle. And while he's no Vita Vea, he's still a very destructive force.
Isn't that the guy
So
that the announcers called him Buenos Noches or something? They got his name wrong. It was quite
that's
hilarious.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I remember that one.
Honestly, even I have to check his name every time. I've actually got it in front of me now. Even I have
Oh
to
yeah,
check it every time before I say it.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And he was because we lost Vita in the postseason last year
Yes.
because he picked up the injury during the season, and excuse me, Nunes Roches obviously stepped in, became first string nose tackle during that period. And like I say, while he's no Vita Vea, he still can be extremely disruptive up on the front, especially when you look at the fact we've got Sue and Golston either side as well, who are also top players. So yeah, there's a few to keep an eye out on there for you.
That would be interesting for our fill-in center. I don't know how he's going to be doing. He's a guy that's filling in center because our centers went out last week mid game. So yeah, good luck to our guy Dan Feeney, who's I think we've all been nervous about him being introduced into the starting lineup, and he actually did a decent job at left guard, and then had to move to centre and did okay. But against some of those interior players, I'm a little bit nervous about that one as well. In terms of a kind of score prediction for the game, in terms of something that you think might happen, not a score prediction, something that may happen in the game, like a game prediction. You want to throw something out there, maybe helps kind of illuminate another player for the listeners.
I mean, I could go for the obvious one, couldn't I? Which
Go for it.
is,
Go for what you wish.
I mean, Mike Evans is so close to his 8th consecutive season of 1,000 yards or more receiving. Right. Is that going to happen Sunday? I mean, it would be great to see it, but might not necessarily push it. So that's the obvious one. It'd be great to see that happen from a Bucks perspective. Sorry, but I'll also throw a slightly a bit of a curveball one out there as well.
Okay.
Just sort of a mad prediction because I've been staring at this name for a bit now, and I know due to some injuries that I think he will be playing, and it's a cornerback called Pierre Desir. So I think he's going to get quite. Yeah, Desir. Yeah,
we had a very
yeah,
bad time with Desir. He
I thought
he phoned it in massively. We traded him from the Colts, and he had a first game was okay, and then he was atrocious. And it was a lack of effort. It really was a lack of effort, and it was during the Gase years. So you just don't know. Sometimes a player's just like, F this, I'm not going to bother with this regime because the Jets are a mess and Gase is a mess. And so, but he was really bad for us. So we know Desir. So what do you want to say about Desir? Go on.
Well, he's done all right for us when he's coming.
Of course, because he's playing for a championship team. Of course,
So, and I'll be honest, I didn't know about his connection with the Jets until you just mentioned it. So now I know that it sort of backs this prediction, which actually I think I've got a sneaky feeling I might be quite right on right now, and I think that I'm going to go that he might get interception against Wilson. I'm not going to say it'll be a pick six, but I think we might see an interception there potentially, especially if you say your O line is so battered at the moment. One thing I expect us to do is to bring the blitz, to really put Wilson under pressure. And we're able to put him under pressure and force him to panic and get rid of that ball. There's no reason why we couldn't see interceptions from quite a few of our players. And the sacks we got against Carolina, I think we got 9 sacks against Carolina. So it could be a good day for our defense on Sunday again, potentially.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Like I said, the centers are filling. The rest of the 4 starters have done a good job. And they're back. As in, we lost our 2 guards last week to COVID. They're both back, and the tackles were fine, and they continue to be fine. So I think it's just the center position, which can be a very pivotal position in terms of making everything move from the middle. It's a pivotal position in terms of protection and alignment and stuff like that, especially helping pick up those blitz, especially with Bowles really heating it up for Zach Wilson. So I mean, Zach hasn't thrown interception for a few weeks now. You're not the first person to predict a cornerback interception as the prediction. It's happened about 3 or 4 times. Out of all the players you could pick on your team, I've had 3 or 4 predictions throughout the season that have been this cornerback it's going to pick
Yeah.
off Wilson. So, but it's an easy one. Rookie QB, and everyone remembers that
Well, that's it.
very that big performance against the Patriots when he threw 4 interceptions, and so it kind of sticks in your mind a bit. He's actually been protecting the ball quite well. So we'll see about that. Like I say, I think it's going to be a massive challenge now for him to kind of protect the ball. As well as he has been, but under the pressure that Bowles and the Bucs D is going to provide. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting battle. And with Desir there, I'm would be very surprised if it wouldn't be him picking it off, because it'd be very difficult, because he was a player that we really dislike, because there's nothing worse than a player who is not giving it their all. Like when it's like he's not just bad. He wasn't bad. He was just not giving it, and that just for a fan base, it just you hate those players. Exactly. So it's going to happen at this point. It's good that you told me that he's playing. I can kind of look out for that. In terms of the score prediction, as we wrap this up, what are you feeling about the score prediction?
I mean, I don't want to be rude towards the Jets.
No, go for it, man. You're a 13-point favorite for a reason, right? So throw whatever you want to throw out there. Honestly,
I mean, I'm feeling confident. I am. I'm feeling really confident about Sunday. Yes, we've got injuries and COVID, but nothing compared to what you guys have got. I know you said you've got players coming back as well, but I think we're going to have a field day. I really do. And I on the Bucs UK podcast, I said this prediction, so I'm going to say it on here as well. I'm going to stick to it. I went 33-12 to the Bucs.
Okay.
So so I'll give you a touchdown, a couple of field goals. I've been nice on that one. But I think especially I mean more at home, but we have put 30 plus points up quite regularly this season. I just don't see any reason why we can't do it on Sunday against you guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I feel very I'm not very confident about this matchup overall. There's just the team that you guys are, and the team that we are right now, with the players and the coaches that we have, and with Brady coming in, and Brady, and Gronk, right? Brady and Gronk, they see the green. They're in MetLife. It's like they're gonna go. They are really gonna go. So it's
I don't know how I've not even mentioned those two as well. I've been talking about all these other players that might step up.
I choose to not include them because we already know them very well. So
of course,
my listeners don't need to know about Brady and Gronk. We know them very well, unfortunately. So we know what they can do. So yeah,
very true.
It's very good. But Alex, thanks so much for joining us on the pod. Is there anywhere people can access your stuff if they want to listen to other kind of? There's a lot of people that may reach out to other people in the UK Jets, in the UK NFL community. Is there where can people find you?
Oh yeah, please do so. We've got Bucs UK on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We've also got our YouTube channel, Bucs UK YouTube channel, which is where we release our podcast. So come and give us a like and a subscribe on there. Give us a follow on our social media channels, and we do, particularly on Twitter, we do try and follow back as much as we can. So we're always looking to interact with as many people in the NFL community as possible. So please come and find us on there.
Absolutely, thanks a lot, Alex, and we'll head it back to me and Matt. Okay, so we'd like to thank Alex for jumping on the pod. I think we'll now jump into our part of the preview. Matt, what would you like to see from Zach against his Bucs D, which is, pretty strong against the run, struggled in the backfield because of a lot of injuries, but is overall a pretty good defense. I think they may be without Lavonte David, maybe without some other players. And so it's kind of, at this point, it's hard to see who's in and who's out. But what would you like to see from Zach on the offense?
Well, I think the challenge for Zach is somewhat similar to the challenge he faced a couple of weeks ago against Miami, when you're thinking about a defensive coordinator who we know quite well in Todd Bowles, who's going to come up with some schemes and some blitzes and some different looks that are going to challenge you and stress you. There's a reason that Tampa Bay lead the NFL in sacks at the moment, because they have these different looks, these different blitz packages. They will get after you and they will kind of cause you problems. And I thought when we played Miami, Zach did quite well with these different looks. It was a big challenge for him, kind of the way they play the cover zero. And this isn't to say Tampa Bay do the exact same with cover zero. They're a bit more droppy and kind of sending people from different positions. But you want to see Zach diagnose and then push the ball where the blitz is coming from. So replace the blitz with the ball and kind of find the weak spot where the kind of space is created behind the blitz and get the ball there. And I think that's kind of using the hot routes that he has, using the quick reads, getting the ball out of his hands and not relying on long developing routes and kind of trying to play hero ball a bit too much. I think we just want to see him get the ball out, play fast, play aggressive, and make the right reads. And it's kind of more of what he's been doing the last couple of weeks. It's that kind of staying within the offense, but when he needs to, he's got license to kind of go out and do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, the running that he did against the Jags is something that we'd like to see replicated. Obviously he needs to protect himself and go out of bounds if he feels he's going to take a big hit. But, I think it's you want to see him making those plays with his legs as well, especially when things break down. And yeah, I think he had good pocket presence against the Jags and at the right time. That play specifically was good, how he kind of got out of the potential sack and got out in the open. But I also felt that he stuck in there when he needed to and got out when he needed to. So more of the same really, where kind of you're protecting the ball. That's one thing, and also having good pocket awareness and when to leave and when to stay. That's really good. So I think more progression, more of the same really, because I think he has protected the ball. I think, as we talked about with David over time and the last few weeks, he did overcorrect a little bit. I think he was a little bit more. He pushed the ball a little bit more last week. There was a few drops, but I think hopefully you see him continue to have some confidence, especially if he gets some of his guys back. I think it was the right call with a lot of his players out, without Elijah, without Corey. You don't want to see him taking too much risk with guys who aren't as capable. Now with some of those players back, especially if Elijah's back, Jameson's back, you hopefully will see a little bit more confidence getting the ball down the field. And like I said, what you said earlier, getting the ball out to Elijah on a dig route, down the field. So yeah, I think with Zach, it's more of the same, but overall protect the ball. Keep the game close. Don't give Brady a short field, because it's basically almost an automatic 7 at that point. And I think that's really just kind of play the game in a very don't chase the game. Don't force the game. Don't chase it. So in terms of the running game, the Bucs have. They're not quite as stout as they've been last year. Obviously, I think injuries and different things go in the way, but they're still a pretty good, formidable kind of run D. What do you think about the run game? Michael Carter and Tevin Coleman and the offensive line creating holes for them.
Well, I think the exciting thing there is you ran the ball so well last week against, obviously, we keep saying that, I think it's worth saying it was the Jaguars, who have had a pretty similar run defense to us, but you're getting AVT and LDT back in that lineup for that extra push. And Vera Tucker and LDT have been so good this season in the run game and kind of getting the push. The numbers are just jump off the page in terms of their push, the yards per carry when you're running behind them. So having those two back inside on the interior, given that Connor McGovern's out, is going to be a real asset. I think that centre position is a bit of a question mark. We don't quite know.
It's going to be Feeney, isn't it?
Is it going to be Feeney?
I think it might be the mullet. Yeah, I think because he was I don't know if it was because we were down so many people that maybe they thought Feeney was the best person, but obviously when Connor went down in the game against the Jags, it was Feeney who was immediately put in at centre. So my guess is that Feeney would be the backup centre, and so
Let's see how he does then. He played pretty well.
We'll see. Hopefully,
so that's kind of the question mark on the offensive line for me is the centre play. Unfortunately, it's one of those things when you're this far into the season and have had this many injuries and knocks, you just got to ride it out and see how it goes and hope it doesn't hamstring your offense too greatly. And then in the running game, you kind of want to see what the Jets have been doing all season, particularly from Michael Carter, who I think is looking more and more of a steal each week from that 4th round slot. He is dynamic, explosive, shifty. He works so hard for each yard. Is kind of one of the things that I think people are really appreciative of him, because even when he's in the tackle, he kind of finds a way to contort and wiggle and move his body just to make sure that he's leaning forward and falling forward and not getting driven back. And those yards over a game can make the difference, and that's what he's doing. So I don't think we're in for another rushing performance like last week. I think the 273 yards the Jets got against the Jaguars were the most by any team in a game all season, which kind of puts into perspective how impressive a rushing performance it was, considering you're down your starting guards. But you want to see them do that. You want to see the running attack put them in second and manageable, third and short, play in the right areas of the pitch and create opportunities for you to kind of attack down the field and establish play action and keep the chains moving, because one of the things that is going to help the Jets stay competitive in this game is limiting the amount of time the ball spends in Tom Brady's hands. If you're able to limit him to 5-6 drives as opposed to 8-9 drives, that makes such a big difference for the final scoreline, for keeping you in the game, for giving you an opportunity to win the game. So that running attack is so critical, and it's what underpins the entire Jets offense. So we hope that they can kind of establish it, keep it moving, and impose their will a bit like they did last week. And I think that's a good thing to roll out.
Yeah, hopefully the centre position doesn't create too much of a problem if it is Feeney. It is really good to have the two guards back. The tackles have been doing a good job. So hopefully they're able to keep Zach upright, give him some time, and in the running game, create push, create holes, and help there keep the kind of the balance of the offense, which is, I think, crucial to kind of having any success against a good team and keeping up with the Brady offense, which even without players is going to put up points, just because Brady is excellent at distributing to whoever he needs to, and he still does have some good players. So let's switch over to that matchup where Brady's offense is without Godwin, which is a massive miss for them, and without Fournette, but they've got some good. I think their offensive line is really good. They have a really good offensive line, and I think we've really struggled against offensive lines where I think they really have been able to create massive holes against our defense and create massive problems in terms of us managing the game, from the game just getting away from us because of the running game. So I think Ronald Jones and even Lev Bell could have some success against us with that great offensive line. And obviously Brady does what he has to do in the passing game as well. So without Godwin, still probably they might have Mike Evans back. They probably will have, obviously they got Antonio Brown back, and he's his own person, but he's a very good player, and that's what you can say about that. So I think it's there's still a lot to handle. How do you think we're going to try and stop them? How would you tackle stopping the Bucs?
Well, it's the Levion Bell revenge game, isn't it? It's his return to MetLife Stadium, so I'm sure he will, after bouncing around, I'm sure he'll be up for it and trying to get one over. I think for me, this feels like one of those games where Rob Gronkowski might just take over. He is he kind of is one of those players, and this isn't a slight on him, but when he has big games, he fully takes them over, and sometimes he'll have a couple of quieter weeks and then just explode back into a game. I
think that's where he is right now in his career. I think he's just he's a bit like that at the moment. Yeah,
and all things considered, the Jets, their inability to stop tight ends all year, Tom Brady's love of getting the ball out quickly and identifying soft spots, which I think is where you will be able to have success against this Jets defense. I think the fact that he will know that Gronkowski is going to be a matchup nightmare means that you could be looking at Gronkowski leaving with 150 yards, 2 touchdowns on Sunday.
Yeah,
so I think that is where
I kind of forgot about him a little bit somehow. I don't know how, but it's just because I think he hasn't been consistently dominant overall league wide. But I do see him coming into this game. And he sees the green of the Jets, and it's almost like a bull with a red flag at that point. It's just like, it's the kind of, he's just like, I'm at home, we're playing this team in green, and it's like, let's go. And it's just, and he's going to carry 3 guys on his back, like we've seen in the past, and all those memories of not being able to stop him and get him the first downs, and he just somehow, takes 3 guys on his back for 5 or 6 yards to get a first down. Just all that stuff's coming back to me right now, and I can definitely see that happening in a matchup where they may be missing a few pieces on the offense, and Brady's connection with Gronk against the Jets is going to be it's probably going to link up. I can definitely see what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, and I guess that's the question for Salah and Ulbrich, and it's one that, truth be told, they haven't quite been able to solve so far this season. Is who's the guy to match up on these tight ends? And I don't know. This week for me, I'm almost tempted to try someone like Jason Pinnock there, who's playing safety, and he's said in his press conference this week that he almost feels more comfortable there, and he wants to continue to evolve and grow in that position and over the off season. And Pinnock, I think, has an advantage as he's 6'1". He's a slightly bigger prospect,
well.
longer, got the reach, got the length. His coverage ability perhaps isn't going to fare too well against Gronkowski, but it'd be good just to have someone with a bit of size on him, I think, just to try something different.
I think you're right. Yeah.
The rest of the defense is going to kind of live and die by how much pressure they're able to generate, and obviously this has kind of fluctuated throughout the season, and against a good offensive lines like this one, it doesn't always bode too well. But if we are giving Tom time in the pocket to kind of dice up and just wait for this banged up secondary and linebacker core to kind of hold up, he's going to have a field day. So it's a big ask. These guys are coming back from COVID. They're going up against a really good offensive line. They're going up against one of the best quarterbacks mentally. He's able to diagnose these things before they even happen. But that's kind of where it's got to begin and end for the Jets. They've got to generate this pressure, because if they don't generate pressure, and we've seen this all season, if this defense lives and dies by generating pressure, if you don't generate pressure, you just give the quarterback too many opportunities for 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, quick outs, quick ins, and they'll dice us up. So that's where it begins. You'd like to see the players who have played well. Bryce Hall continues to look good, I think, wherever he lines up. Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, that'd be a good matchup for him.
Yeah.
Eccles continues to learn and kind of grow and develop. I think is a nice depth piece. The linebacker core, I think, will have a good day against the run, but we shall see. It'll be a good game, and hopefully they can kind of keep a bit of this end of season momentum going.
I think CJ Mosley is going to be a very pivotal moment if we're gonna contain them at all. You know, his leadership in that offense. I mean, if you take him out of the defense, the other 10 guys have probably got combined seasons of what Brady has in his career. You know, if you think of all the rookies and second year players and younger players, even in their third years, like Quinnen, if you combine all of them, it probably only comes to about Brady's career. So CJ being the experienced one, really diagnosing what he's seeing and getting those communications to his younger teammates, I think is going to be crucial. But yeah, I just, if you're not going to create pressure, and I don't fancy us with the lack of pass rush that we have, and the guys come back fresh from COVID against that really good offensive line, I don't fancy our chances of creating much pressure, especially against Brady, who diagnoses things so quickly, gets the ball out so quickly as well, makes the right reads, makes the right audibles, all the things that he's just, the best at ever. I just don't see us how we can stop them, and then in the running game as well. So it's going to be, I think, another long day for us. We're going to have to put a real good shift in to keep it respectable and keep the offense, to try and get the offense to try and keep up with them. But yeah, I'm not too hopeful for a win. I think purely because I think the defense is going to struggle. I just hope that Zach and the offense can put up a good show, and that'll be positive, and keep it respectable, and also then kind of show their might offensively and how they're coming along. So let's put a score prediction on this before we head out. Matt, what's your feelings about this one?
I am going to go. I think the Jets will do okay in the kind of the first half almost, and I think it'll kind of slow down and unfortunately follow that formula that we've seen on the Philadelphia game and the Miami game, where teams kind of adapt a bit quicker than us and adjust a bit quicker than us and pull away. I'm going to put it at, let's go with 34-21.
Yeah, I'm not too far off that. I was going 38-23. I just can't see the average is what was it before going into last week's game? The average was 39 points on average over the last 8 games before going into last week, and I feel that the Bucs will at least hit that. So, or thereabouts. So yeah, 38-23 for me. I just feel that hopefully we'll put up some points, put some good drives together. I do feel that in the second half it may get away from us a little bit, and then as the game starts to expand, it becomes harder to make those plays that we start to try and make. So hopefully the defense can step up and keep things closer, and we can have a fun game on Sunday. But hopefully it's just not embarrassing. Hopefully the offense puts up some points, and we see some exciting players from our young players and some good play from young players on both sides of the ball. But we will see. But yeah, that's going to wrap us up for this week. We'll be back obviously after the game, to wrap up, kind of do a preview next week, early next week. So, Matt, is there anything you want to say to listeners before we head off?
No, I'm just frantically checking my diary though, because I've realised it's that weird bit between Christmas and New Year where you have no actual concept of what day it is. You just do dates.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm working that out when we're going to be recording.
Right, no, it'll be in the new year. I think on the 3rd, or Monday the 3rd, I believe. The game's on
Well,
the
in that case, I hope everyone has a great New Year.
Yes,
enjoy
absolutely.
it, and we will see you in 2022.
Absolutely, yes. I'll say the same as well. Yeah, have a great New Year. Hopefully, stay safe out there if you're celebrating. Obviously, there's the big C is going around everywhere. Everyone's catching it. It's crazy at the moment. So yeah, stay safe, but enjoy yourself. Enjoy New Year's. You can interact with us on social media at Jets UK Pod. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. We'll have obviously stuff going on in the off season as well. We'll be expanding the channel more than just on the podcast video version. We'll be putting other videos up there. Hopefully in the off season there'll be some more content up there. So jump on there. David's work with the Jets Way writing. He continues to put out that great work, and so that's basically us for this week. Hopefully the game is something that we can enjoy, something we can kind of not get too embarrassed about, and we will be back after the new year. So for this year, we'll say bye, and we'll see you next year.